Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Lisa Sorg from NC Newsline. My question is for Attorney General Stein. I read the court ruling about the shell games.
Yep.
So how does that parlay into real life? Meaning, what will happen because of that ruling?
Well, we still need to have ultimate success in our litigation. But what the court has said is that if we prevail in our case against DuPont and Chemours, those liabilities will flow not only to those companies, but to all their successor companies, where they tried to put the liability onto Chemours and take the assets to the other new shell companies. And so it will enable us to hold them accountable.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's for the mayor. On what exact legal grounds are you filing the lawsuit against Apollo Chemicals?
One is the Clean Water Act, and one is the RCRA, I believe. So those we filed a notice of intent on those two reasons.
This is either for the mayor or Robert. You mentioned cleaning up the Haw. If you drive up north down up 15501 towards Chapel Hill and you pass over the Haw River and you look at the old historic Haw River Bridge, there's a whole bunch of debris up against that. Which agency do folks need to reach out to get that cleaned up?
I've heard that DOT is already working on that cleanup.
Okay.
So it's just a difficult one, but they are already in process.
Thank you.
For Representative Reeves,
Yes.
do you anticipate any legislation in the short session that will continue to address PFAS? Because not much has happened in the legislature.
Not much has happened in the legislature. And I don't know that the short session is going to change that. I'm very hopeful because it's a problem that affects everybody. And it especially affects more problematically rural communities and areas that are represented by people who are in the majority that can make a difference. So thank you.
That's for the mayor. So when floods like these come down the Haw River and you need to have this quick response, how much does it typically cost the city?
I think cost, I'm not sure on the exact numbers, but we have a lot of cooperation from our partners upstream in Burlington and Greensboro. In this case, we got a really quick notification from Burlington. And unfortunately, but fortunately, our staff, water plant staff here, Corey over there, is excellent at dealing with this thing and really at the forefront of leading with this type of thing. So in this last event, we were able to largely avoid it. It's not something we want to be good at, but it is something that we are really good at, and our staff works really well with the other municipalities.
Is DOJ going to be joining the Apollo Chemical litigation when it's filed?
We're obviously following the litigation that they file with great interest. We'll study the complaint and come to a conclusion.
Quick question, as far as like a water quality standard, right, given that this has impacted our community here, is there a standard across the state to ensure that there are basically zero levels of toxins that can impact drinking water? Is there a plan in place to ensure that everyone across the board is the same?
Yeah, it's really nerve-wracking for any homeowner or parent to worry about what is in the water when I turn on the tap. And for that reason, the Environmental Management Commission of the state is in the process of setting a level for 1,4-dioxane that would apply statewide. It takes time for them to both identify and publish that standard and then to get it adopted into law, but that is work that our lawyers are helping them to do as we speak. Yes.
It's for Robert Reeves. You mentioned cities and towns like Pittsboro having to deal with water quality issues like this. We see the granulated activated carbon system here. Can you share more about how Pittsboro is a good example within your district that you can take to the state legislature and say, here they are tackling water quality issues on a rural level?
And I appreciate that question, and I think it's what you've seen here, and not just here, but if you look historically through what we've been to, Pittsboro has been very, not just reactive, but proactive, and understanding that it is a problem and trying to be ahead of the curve and finding things, just like the mayor was just talking about finding a mechanism that maybe hasn't even been tried anywhere else, because
what's got to happen is we've got to take the problem seriously enough to address it in the first place. And I would say that's probably the biggest frustration that you see at the legislative level, is there's more that we can do to hold folks accountable, and it shouldn't be just on towns like Pittsboro. And that's the other reason that Pittsboro is a good example, because if you're a company that has been irresponsible, you should help shoulder that load. You don't get to get all the benefits and none of the burdens. And so I think Pittsboro shows in all facets, by being proactive, by not just being reactive, but also by making sure that they explore all the options, and they try to make sure that anybody who is involved helps to shoulder that load, so it doesn't just fall on taxpayers, all the things that happen because of some corporation. Thank you. Thank you. All right, well, if there are no more questions, we really do appreciate you guys being here today, and obviously some will still be around if there are any further